नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेव्यः भागवते उत्तमश्लोके भक्ति भवति नैष्टिकी. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter number 33, Text 28. The chapter, the chapter is titled Activities of Kapila. तद्देह परतपोषो अपि आक्लिश च अधि असंभवत् बभौ मलै अवच्छन्नः साधु मा इव पावकः तद्देह परतपोषो अपि आक्लिश च अधि असंभवत् बभौ मलै अवच्छन्नः साधु मा इव पावकः तद्देह परतपोषो अपि आक्लिश च अधि असंभवात् बभौ मलै अवच्छन्ना साधुम इव पावक. Her body was being taken care of by the spiritual damsels created by her husband Kardama, and since she had no mental anxiety at that time, her body did not become thin. She appeared just like a fire surrounded by smoke. Right. Purport. Because she was always in trance, in transcendental bliss, the thought of the personality of Godhead was always carefully fixed in her mind. She did not become thin, for she was taken care of by the celestial maidservants created by her husband. It is said, according to the Ayurvedic medical science, that if one is free from anxieties, he generally becomes fat. Devahoti, being situated in Krishna consciousness, had no mental anxieties, and therefore her body did not become thin. It is customary in the renounced order of life that one should not take any service from a servant or maid, but Devahoti was being served by the celestial maidservants. This may appear to be against the spiritual concept of life, but just as fire is still beautiful even when surrounded by smoke, she looked completely pure, although it seemed that she was living in a luxurious way. Om Agnanativirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurmitan Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swamrupa Kadhamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Sijita Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sahagrajatam Sagna Raghunathabitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Paryana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padhan Sagna Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitamusya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavanemayo Vaishnavebhyo Nama Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Siva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Binda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Taddeha parataposo api akrisha chadi asambhavat. Babhomalai abachanna sadhuma eva pavakaha. Sadhuma eva pavakaha. Her body was being taken care by the spiritual damsels created by her husband Kardama, and since she had no mental anxiety at that time, her body did not become thin. She appeared just like a fire surrounded by smoke. So, this chapter, in fact, is a conclusion of this wonderful segment of Lord Kapila's instruction to Devahoti. And after instructing uh, his mother, Devahoti, Lord Kapila um, finishes his task, takes permission from her mother and leaves her, right, leaves her. Years back, Kardama Muni, her husband had left her um, after satisfying her desires. Um, Kardama Muni left for further uh, spiritual um, progress. And here we see Lord Kapila also after finishing his role of instructing Mother Devahoti and through Mother Devahoti to all of us about this wonderful process of Sankhya Yoga. He leaves, right, and we see in verses after this where he leaves to northeast direction near Ganga Sagar and said that he's still there. He's still there, completely no, fixed the Supreme Lord himself, instructing about Sankhya Yoga. The mother Devahuti, she was very fortunate to have the Supreme Lord himself as her son. So even in her grief, even in her separation from her own son, she was performing devotional service because she was separated from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? Lamentation in separation, like Gaur Gobind Maharaj mentioned, lamentation in separation. Sambhoga is union, Vipralamba is separation. In fact, Vipralamba is much higher than union. Uh, the mood of separation, just like the gopis feel the absence of Lord Krishna, right? As if they are never separated from Lord Krishna, but the physical absence of Lord Krishna. And Lord Krishna also exhibits his pastimes like that, that he got all of them riled up in full ecstasy in this Rasalila dance, especially in the center Srimati Radharani. And then all of a sudden he leaves from that place. And he leaves from that place. In separation. The gopis are lamenting and lamenting in separation. Right. We see Uddhavji being sent to deliver a message of Lord Krishna to Vraj. And when he sees this mood of separation from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he desires that, oh Lord, please bless me to become a keeper in Vraj, where I can get the dust of the lotus feet of these advanced devotees. Right? Lamentation, separation. Fully fixed in devotional service. Fully fixed in devotional service. And we see here Mother Devavati also exhibiting that same mood, um, fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness. In general, it is mentioned Bhogeshwara Prasaktalam. Right? When you have too many opulences, it's difficult for one to practice devotional service. It becomes an obstacle, right? Because we become artificially allured to those possessions which we may have, right? Uh, so, in Mother Devothi's case, Kardama Muni, her husband, had left his palace, right, palatial building, palace for her with all the maid servants, right, who could take care of all the other necessities. So it could it could become much more difficult, right? It could become much more difficult to practice devotional service. But she was so absorbed in performing devotional service, right? That Vairagya Vidya, Nija Bhakti Yoga. When a person performs devotional service, one does not have to practice artificial detachment. Detachment automatically comes. Vairagya automatically comes, right? And Bhukti and Mukti are the gatekeepers of the person performing devotional service because that person does not desire for either bhukti, sense enjoyment, or mukti, liberation, right? Because he's automatically um, detached, right? So, despite all these material opulences, he was automatically detached. And nice analogy is given about fire covered by smoke, right? Babau malai abachanna, right? Babau malai abachanna. Suduma iva pavaka, right? Fire covered by smoke. Uh, that artificially it may seem that she's covered by all these material opulences, just like when the fire is covered by smoke, but fire, light. Now, science by itself, science by itself is completely, she's completely pure. She's completely pure. Although she may seem to be living in a luxurious way, right? We see in the pastimes of Mahaprabhu, uh, an associate was the Pundarika Vidyanidhi, right? Filled with material opulence, right? So, Mukunda Datta and uh, Gadadhar Pandit were sent to uh, see Pundarik Vidyanidhi, and he was lying on a bed and eating grapes, right? So much luxury. And Mukundatta could automatically feel the mind of Gadadhar Pandit. And he immediately started reciting the pastimes of Krishna delivering Putana. And as soon as he started reciting that pastime, all ecstatic symptoms automatically started becoming revealed in the body of in the body of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. And he started rolling on the ground. And Gadadhar Pandit felt that, oh, what grave offense I was committing mentally, that I was thinking that this person is completely absorbed in opulence, bhoga, and is completely absorbed in sense enjoyment, how is he going to take devotional service? Well, in fact, he was completely absorbed in devotional service. So much so that the other Pandit later on took initiation from Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Right, initiation from Pundarik Vidyanidhi. So one should not artificially judge a person based on his opulences. Oh, now he's having all this luxurious lifestyle. He will not be able to practice devotional service. In fact, it is mentioned those who do not complete devotional service in this life, they take birth. So chinam shrimantam gehe, right? Either in a pious family or a wealthy family where they do not have to strive for their material necessities. That's already there. And they can completely be focused in performance of devotional service. Right? Completely be focused in performance of devotional service. And that's how Mother Devavati was completely focused in performance, full absorption of devotional service without any material anxieties. And that's why it's mentioned that Srila Prabhupada quotes this Ayurvedic medical science that when one is free from anxiety, he generally becomes fat. Right. And Devavati, since completely being situated in Krishna consciousness, he had no material anxieties. That's why uh, her body did not become thin, right? With the austerities and full performance of devotional service, her body did not become thin because she had no material anxiety. She was in a pure state of consciousness. She was in a pure state of Krishna consciousness, right? That's the situation of a devotee when he is completely absorbed in Krishna consciousness. Jivira Swarupa Nitya Krishna Das. Right. And he realizes this position that he is eternally the servant of the Supreme Lord, not servant of his not Godas, servant of his senses. Right. He conquers his senses, Goswami. He conquers his senses and uses his senses in service of the Supreme Lord. And uses his senses in service of the Supreme Lord. Rishikena, Sevanam Bhakti Uttamam. Right? Uses his senses in the service of the control of all senses, Rishikesha. Right? And that's how we see Mother Devahoti completely absorbed in her practice of devotional service, where she was completely in separation from the Supreme Lord, her own son, and fully focused in devotional service of the instructions which were left by her son to her. Right. uh, yeah. It's mentioned Devati felt great love as she continually meditated on her son, Kapil Dev, as she carefully followed his instructions on devotional service. Her heart became purified and she became situated in full knowledge. Right. She became situated in full knowledge, and gradually the modes of material nature ceased to act on her. Right. Tibi gunamani bhavai ebim saramidam jagatam mohitam nami janati mamebhyam paramavayam. The three modes of material nature otherwise bewilders us. The Lord created it, but He is inexhaustible. He is not influenced by it. But the whole world becomes influenced by it. But How to overcome the modes of material nature? Daivi hesha gunamai mamamayamam duruttaya. That which is very difficult to overcome becomes easy to overcome when a person performs devotional service. It is like as if crossing um, um, the instead of crossing um the ocean, it is like crossing the water which is filled in the hoof print of a calf. Right, hoof print of a calf. So the modes of material nature ceased to act on her, and she became liberated, achieving the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Situated in eternal trance and freed from illusion impaired by the modes of material nature. Right? And she forgot her material body just as one forgets his different bodies in a dream from the previous verse. Right. So thus Devotee achieved the same success through her love for her son Kapila Muni as achieved by the practitioner of yoga by meditating on the super soul. Right. Just by focusing on her son and his instructions, since she was fortunate enough to have the Supreme Personality of Godhead as her son, right? In the mood of Vatsalya, to explain about this word Vatsalya. Vatsa comes from cow, right? How cow is completely thinking about her calf, right? Vatsa gaur iva Vatsala, right? Uh, the Lord is my son is called Vatsalya. The word Vatsalya is derived from the word Vatsa, calf. As a cow is affectionate towards the calf, so parents may be affectionate towards their children and hug them, holding them to their chest. This kind of love-filled relationship is called Vatsalya, parental love, which Mother Devotee experienced from her own son, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that mood of Vatsalya, that mood of the lamentation, she went on performing a devotional service in pure Krishna consciousness. That the modes of material nature ceased to act on her. Um, she did not become thin, right? And uh, uh, despite the material opulences around her, she did not become affected by that. Right? She did not become affected by that. That's all we have from this verse. Let's see if there's any discussion on this. Let me see if I can stop sharing. Where is my... Any discussions?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can you explain? You said bhakti compared with the hoof of the print of the calf analogy.
Yes. So just like this material world is compared like a big ocean, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult to overcome, right? Material world is like a blazing fire of material existence, like samsara chakra, is big ocean. It's very difficult to overcome. But that person who is performing devotional service, right, to that person, that ocean is compared to like a water filled in the hoof of a calf. The calf hoof print, right, will be very small on the ground, right? And if water is spilled in that hoof print, it will be very, very little, right? And you
Mm-hmm.
will be easily be able to overcome. So a person performing devotional service, the modes of material nature does not act on that person, and he can easily overcome the samsara chakra.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Is that okay, Mataji?
Yeah. Yes, I got it.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other discussion? We still have 5 minutes to go. Somebody has any other discussion or reflection on these wonderful pastimes? We see Pundarik Vidyanidhi is one particular case, but not affected by opulences.
Can you explain again about Pundarik? I understood half. I did not completely understood about Pundarik. You were giving an example.
Yeah, the Pundarik Vidyanidhi, right, the associate of Mahaprabhu, had all material opulences, right, and at times, though he's completely focused in devotional service, right, externally he was appearing as if he is absorbed in this sense gratification.
Mm-hmm.
So, two associates of Mahaprabhu, Mukunda and um, Gadadhar Pandit, went to Pundarik Vidyanidhi. And when they went to Pundarik Vidyanidhi at his home, he was on this bedstead where he was eating grapes,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like in opulence, you see the kings lying on the bedstead eating grapes, somebody is fanning him, right?
So all luxury was going on when
Yeah,
he saw.
luxury was going on, opulence was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And mentally, Gadadhar said, why did we come here? It's so much absorbed in sense gratification. Mukundadatta, reading the mind of Gadadhar Pandit, started narrating the pastimes of Lord Krishna delivering Putana. And hearing that pastimes, Pundarik Vidyanidhi, all ecstatic symptoms started. Um, he started experiencing all ecstatic symptoms and he started rolling in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing that, suddenly, there was a shift. Initially, they were thinking that, he's completely absorbed in material opulence, and here he's so absorbed in devotional ecstasy
Mm-hmm.
that Gadadhar Pandit felt that, how did he commit an offense mentally for this advanced devotee? And he ultimately took initiation from Pundarik Vidyanidhi. In Gaur Ganesh Deepika, it's mentioned that Gadadhar Pandit is none other than Srimati Radharani,
Right. Mm.
right? And Pundarik Vidyanidhi is none other than King Vishabhanu, the father of.
Oh, Vishwabhanu. Okay.
So he takes initiation from Pundarik Vidyanidhi. So that's a pastime that, though he had all these material opulences, he was completely uh, fixed in devotional service, not
Thank you,
in
Prabhuji.
meditation. Yeah, okay.
Got it.
Then thank you. Okay, we have at 7 a.m. Thank you very much for for joining this wonderful session. We'd like to wish you all a safe and Krishna conscious day and weekend ahead, first weekend of 2025. We'd like to offer our prayers to the Supreme Lord by chanting Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Hare,
Hare Hare,
Hare Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Rama
Rama, Rama
Rama,
Rama,
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Hare Hare,
Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Rama
Hare
Rama Hare Hare.
Hare
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 Krishna,
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 Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Krishna,
Hare.
Hare
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 Rama,
Hare
Rama,
Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama
Rama Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare.
Shinu Singha,
Narasimha Jai
Jai
Narasimha
Jai
Jai Jai Narasimha Prahlad.
Praladesha, Jaya
Vijay Padma
Padma
Mukha Padma Bhringam.
Ugravira
Ugravetam
Ugraveeram
Mahavishtum
Mahavishnu
Jalantam
Charantam
Sarvatomukam
Sarvatomukham
Narasimha
Narasimha
Bhadram
Vishnam Bhadram
Bhaktam Vitam
Vishmurti
Namami.
Namami.
Nrsimha Bhagwan ki Jai, Prahlad
Ki
Jai,
Maharaj
Jai,
ki Jai.
Jai.
Let's offer
Jai.
our humble obeisances to all that assembled devotees. Vancha
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 kalpataru
kalpataru
Vaishya
Vaishya
Kripa
Kripa
Kalpa
Sindhu
Sindhu
Bhave.
Deva
पतितानां
पावनेभ्यो
वैष्णवेभ्यो
वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो
नमो
नमः।
नमः।
वैष्णविंद की
वैष्णव
जय।
वृंद की जय।
जय
ग्रंथ राज श्रीमद् भागवतम
भागवतम
की
की
जय।
जय।
शिला
जय
प्रभुपाद की
जय।
जय।
गौर प्रेमानंदे।
हरि
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 बोल।
बोल।
थैंक
थैंक
यू
यू एवरीबॉडी। हरि
थैंक यू
बोल। हरे
हरे
कृष्णा।
हरि बोल।
हरे कृष्णा हरे